Imagine this. You fall in love, feeling alive, inspired, even invincible. But what if that feeling wasn't real? What if it was a carefully constructed illusion designed not by a person, but by nature itself to make you a slave? Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher of pessimism, didn't see romance as beautiful. He saw it as a weapon, a trap. This isn't the story of heartbreak, it's the story of metaphysical betrayal. In Schopenhauer's view, women don't want love or truth. They are the embodiment of nature's will to ensnare you. Their charm, warmth, and affection are masks worn by the will, the primal force keeping you locked in an endless cycle of desire, reproduction, and pain. Schopenhauer believed in a world driven by what he called the will, a blind, insatiable force compelling every living thing to chase, crave, and want, yet never be satisfied. The will doesn't care about your dreams or peace. It wants only for you to keep desiring, even if it destroys you. This is the stage Schopenhauer sets, a world not of joy, but of repetition and suffering. You're born, you want, you suffer, and hopefully die before it drags on too long. Every pleasure is merely a brief pause between two agonies, and the more alive you feel, the deeper into the trap you go. Love, to Schopenhauer, isn't a bond between souls, but the will's greatest illusion. It feels transcendent and divine, but behind the soft words and longing stares lies only biology, raw, mechanical, merciless. Nature doesn't care about your happiness. It only wants the species to continue, and it will deceive you to achieve its goal. In Schopenhauer's philosophy, women become central figures, not villains, but vessels. He didn't believe they consciously choose to deceive. Rather, they are the deception itself. Nature uses them to ensnare men through beauty, affection, and the promise of meaning, but what's delivered isn't connection. It's a sentence. The man who believes he's found love has, in Schopenhauer's eyes, simply auditioned for a starring role in a tragedy. When the curtain rises, it's not applause he hears, but the sound of chains locking behind him. Women, to Schopenhauer, were nature's most exquisite trick, the mask worn by the will to ensure life never stops, no matter the cost. Their charm, softness, and allure weren't signs of beauty, but of manipulation perfected by time. They were designed to draw men into the trap, making them believe they were choosing freely when they were being led. Every glance, laugh, and curve was, in his view, a symbol of nature's silent strategy. And that strategy was brutal. Once a man falls under the spell, he no longer thinks clearly. His logic, ambition, and sense of purpose become warped by the illusion of connection. But Schopenhauer believed this connection was a lie, a hallucination injected into the mind by the will so the species would continue, even as the individual was consumed. When a man falls in love, what he experiences isn't truth, but instinct disguised as destiny. He believes he's found his soulmate, the missing piece of his existence. But all he's really found is nature's hand guiding him toward reproduction. The compatibility he feels isn't emotional, it's genetic. The fire in his chest is just the will tightening its grip. Love blinds, scrambles the senses, clouds reason, and hijacks the mind. A man in love becomes a stranger to himself, betraying his ideals and sacrificing his freedom, justifying it all with poetry and songs. But behind the music is a primal directive: continue the species. And women play this role perfectly, offering affection and the illusion of eternity when they truly offer only continuation of suffering. For Schopenhauer, if love was the bait, marriage was the cage. He didn't see it as a bond of trust or celebration of unity, but as a slow spiritual death. A man seduced by love might think he's stepping into commitment, but in Schopenhauer's world, he's stepping into captivity, not by force, but by promise, not with chains, but with vows. Marriage, he wrote, was a contract rooted not in love, but in biology's cold logic. Its true goal was reproduction, and everything else, romance, companionship, partnership, was merely a layer of illusion. He believed that once a man married, the fantasy would collapse, passion would fade, affection would sour, and what once felt like freedom would harden into a sentence. For the woman, in his eyes, she had already won. By securing the man through love, she had fulfilled nature's purpose. Schopenhauer believed she had little more to offer after that. Her power came from the pursuit, not the permanence. Once the man was locked in, his role changed. No longer a lover, now a provider, no longer desired, now required. The result, he believed, was predictable: regret, resentment, and a quiet erosion of everything that made him who he was before he gave himself away. To marry, in Schopenhauer's eyes, was not to share a life, but to surrender one, and by the time a man realized the price he had paid, it would be too late. Schopenhauer believed women did not need strength to rule. They only needed the appearance of needing protection. He saw them not as warriors, but as masters of emotional leverage. In his view, their power came not from force, but from frailty. Tears, softness, helplessness, these weren't signs of innocence but tactics, nature's clever way of disarming a man while tightening its grip. Men, wired to protect, were easily manipulated by vulnerability. A trembling voice, a well-timed silence, a carefully placed wound. These, to Schopenhauer, were sharper than any weapon, and unlike violence, these tactics left no scars, only guilt. A man wouldn't even realize he was being controlled. He would call it compassion, call it love, but beneath that emotion lay submission, not to a person, but to a pattern. What begins as empathy becomes erosion. His boundaries dissolve, his convictions bend, and he convinces himself he's noble for enduring it. But Schopenhauer saw only one result: loss. Not just of power, but of clarity. The man no longer knows where she ends and he begins. His identity becomes liquid, molded by guilt, shaped by obligation. Beneath the poetry of love and rituals of romance, Schopenhauer saw a battlefield, not one of open violence, but of hidden strategy. He believed the relationship between men and women was not a harmonious partnership, but a quiet war, fought with seduction instead of swords, expectation instead of force. In his eyes, both sexes were locked in a perpetual struggle for dominance, masked by the language of affection. The will orchestrates this tension, setting men and women at odds because their interests, though intertwined, are never truly aligned. Men are drawn to women by the illusion of completeness. Women offer that illusion, but never surrender control of it. Every promise becomes a negotiation, every act of intimacy a transaction. Is there a way out? Schopenhauer did not offer comfort, redemption, or healing. He offered one thing: detachment, not the kind found in therapy or spiritual retreats, but a radical rejection of life's most seductive illusions, chief among them love. To him, the only path to freedom was to deny the will itself. That meant walking away from desire, from lust, from the longing that binds men to women and men to suffering. He believed most would never do it. They would fall, chase the dream again and again, confusing submission for intimacy and sacrifice for meaning. But for the rare few who saw through the veil, who understood that the game was rigged from the beginning, there was a kind of dark liberation, not happiness, not joy, but clarity. To escape the trap, Schopenhauer argued one must renounce not just women, but the very instincts that draw you to them. You must become indifferent to the smile, the softness, the promise of connection. You must see them not as enemies, but as instruments used by nature to keep you in chains, and then quietly choose not to play. It's a brutal philosophy that leaves little room for hope or romance. But that was Schopenhauer's final truth. You are not here to be fulfilled. You are here to survive the illusions long enough to see through them. The world will tempt you, women will charm you, love will beckon you, but beneath it all is the same cold whisper: suffer. So the choice, he believed, is simple, though never easy. Will you chase the illusion and call it love, or will you walk away and call it freedom? In a world designed to break you with beauty, perhaps the ultimate rebellion is simply to look and not reach.